a little bit of a shift, but also I wanted to talk about comedy and like just different aspects of the things that we also share, we also like. I think that an aspect of what our relationship that I really appreciate is that we kind of have the same kind of humor, and even though we don't have the exact same kind of humor, it's very much a lot of crossover, which I really appreciate. But one of the things is that one I wanted to ask you is that what form of comedy do you enjoy the most? You know, there's different forms. There's memes, there's stand-up, there's just different, you know. But as you know, as you get older and as you kind of your taste kind of change, what are you drawn to still?
So, growing up, you know, when I was very young, I loved Friends. So sitcoms, you know, I loved Friends. Sitcoms were very available on Disney Channel. You literally had like That's So Raven, Sweet Life on Deck. I guess Hannah Montana to a degree, but all these literally sitcoms, like live audience sitcoms, obviously canned laughter, whatever, but that was the setup. And I think my sense of humor was very like situational punchline thing, which is like those sitcoms, especially the Disney ones, because that's what I was watching a lot when I was younger. But then as I got older, I did start to watch stand-up, but I wouldn't say that's really something that changed my sense of humor. But maybe thinking about it, actually, I think that made me do more character work, I guess, if you want to call it that, where you're impersonating. Sometimes you're like, it's an item, an object. And my mum does this a lot as well. It's like, we'll give the fridge a personality, you know, and be like it's upset that it's empty. That's a shit example, but we'll impersonate an empty fridge, or if, you know, those kind of things, or like we'll make, I can't remember what it was with my cat, but it was something along the lines of like, we were respecting him too much, like he was a member of the house, and it was just kind of, yeah, just dumb, like we're going to come in one day and he's reading a newspaper, he's got glasses on, like that kind of thing, and we just build it into this absurdist image. I do love that kind of comedy a lot. I also love, like two other things I want to say. I also love irony and talking about something in a way that's just not genuine, but intentionally, because that is the joke. You know, the joke is to say this thing that's so ridiculous, not necessarily offensive. Maybe when I was younger it was that, but now it's like just saying something that would be otherwise so obvious that it shouldn't be this way.
It's very hard to explain. Right?
Yeah,
it's an
sure.
intangible thing that happens in a moment.
Sure, I love that. And then I also love just like people watching and just seeing those micro moments that I just think are so hilarious. And it's especially when you know how someone thinks. And, you know, maybe we're thinking about the same person, but just knowing how someone thinks and seeing them in a moment, and you're just like, of course, that's what you would do, you know? Even my dad does the same thing, and I think Courtney is like learning that. So now when I visit my dad, I have this experience where we both know what my dad is like. He'll do something insane, and we just look at each other and it's like, man, this is gold, you know? This is so hilarious, and characters, and yeah, for sure. I think that's the kind of comedy I love. And I think how those last two present themselves, it's like, I do love Twitter at the moment, because there's a certain snarkiness, lack of care on it. You do get a lot of dickheads who maybe care a bit too much, but often not. The people that I've managed to follow and the little bubbles I've curated, it is just people like, everyone knows we love dumb shit, and it's kind of just laughing about dumb shit. And yeah, I think I do love that. That's the kind of irony thing.
That's brilliant, man. That's brilliant. I think for me, to speak for myself also, like, it's funny because like growing up, funnily enough, I was like drawn to like stand up, and like I never really watched like not stand up sitcoms. Yeah, I never really watched sitcoms. I saw Friends. My sister loved Friends, so I was like on the house all the time. But because I saw it so much times, I didn't really like pay attention to it. Right. But now I kind of went back and watched it, and I was like, you know, it's a bit funny. It was pretty good.
I understand that there's a lot of, like, especially with sitcoms and Friends in general, it's like a cheesy American comedy, and very much like, well, what's going on here? You know, like, I get it, but I kind of grew up with it, so I can't help but love it. But that being said, I haven't watched a sitcom in a long time.
Really?
And even not just a live audience one like Friends, like just a comedy show. I love stand-up as well, and I think I love it as a form of art. I don't necessarily, like, if I go to watch stand-up, I don't actually laugh that much. Odd occasions where I've watched a special and I'm like, oh, that is hilarious, and I'll laugh out loud. But typically I'm more just like, I love following the people speaking and hearing how they connect things. I most enjoy sitcoms when I can see they're enjoying it, and like maybe they'll break character a little bit and laugh at their own joke. Not when it's too excessive, but when that becomes part of the story.
Of it too, like
The
fact that it's funny and it's like it's smart.
For sure, and like their perspective of the world, and it puts things in perspective for me. And like if they notice this situation is so stupid, and I love that. I love that kind of stand up. I was gonna say though, you know what I do actually quite love, and it's a bit weird. It's that Netflix I Think You Should Leave show. I don't know if I showed you it, but it's like just so absurdist, and it's like a bunch of writers get in a room, and it's like, you know, that awkward moment where everyone's talking about an online video that you haven't seen, but you're embarrassed to let people know, so you kind of just pretend you know it. And it will take a situation like that and just build this sketch out of it that's so absurd and ridiculous. And it feels so real almost in a stupid way, even though it's of course like the furthest thing from reality. But as almost like what do you call it? Not ADHD that people just throw around these days, but it's like an intrusive thought. It's like the sketches are literally just intrusive thoughts that I know I would have, but building a sketch from that. And I honestly recommend it. It's a bit, well, if you like that kind of absurdist stuff, but I love it so much.
You've spoken about it, and I think I've seen like one clip of it where he's like at this it's like a dating show, and he's like having the best time ever, like alone by himself, and then he has to get kicked off, and he's just like, I don't want to leave, I love you so much. And he's like, you've never even spoke to me. And it's like that kind of thing. We have the same kind of humor when it comes to that, like absurdist. Like, cause I can see, and I think I want to talk about why, like, we find that, not why we find it funny, but what humor and having that kind of perspective about humor says about a person. Because, like, I can see the writer's mind when they do that. I can see that they also, like, looking at the world in the same way, the ridiculousness of it. Like, they don't take the world too seriously, almost, or they can find pockets of joy and happiness. And I really love doing that. Like, honestly, like, most of the time, I'm out here, I'm trying to make myself laugh. Like, I would do stuff just to make myself laugh. And I think it's funny because I think that, and all of a sudden, I don't think about it too deeply in the moment, but like when I can look back on myself, I think it's just like, oh, like if I find enjoyment in this thing, I can bring other people in and make like, look, this thing is also funny, you know. And it's like that's why I've kind of grown up. I found that kind of angle into humor, you know. So even moving away from the stand-ups and the sitcoms and the humor that's produced, even humor that I enjoy, and what that says about me is just like, oh, I'm just in the moment just trying to have fun. If I see something that I think is funny, or if I notice something that, you know, I don't know if anyone else knows, I maybe look at you and be like, did you see that? Did you see how funny that was? You know?
And then I always have,
exactly.
And that's what I sort of mean, like when I mentioned, you know, seeing a situation with people, because sometimes, honestly, sometimes life is just so funny, like, and you just can't write it sometimes, you know. It's like, it's impossible to really capture what happened, but because of all the setup that we've inadvertently done, you know, and then there's just a moment that's such a glorious payoff, you know, and it's like, man, life, yeah.
Life is beautiful. Life is beautiful.
Life is beautiful sometimes.
Life is so beautiful.
Life is
beautiful. Okay.
Maybe that's
that's a great place to end, because we do know we're both thinking about the same thing, which is the fact that the phone is going to turn off. But no, I think this has been short, but I think it's been amazing. I think thank you so much for doing this. As I like to end these episodes, I always give the guests a chance to ask a question, which you've actually asked quite a few, but I always give them a chance to ask a question, anything they've been thinking about recently they don't want to ask me. Is there anything that pops to mind?
Are you upset that everyone is saying Joker 2 is terrible?